Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that is absolutely critical. Whether you're building an app for a class project or you're getting ready to start a career in tech, we're talking about project quality management. Basically, we're going to figure out how to build things that don't just work, but work brilliantly.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You're just staring at a frozen screen, or you're fighting with a super buggy app, or using a website that just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. That feeling, that frustration, that is the result of poor quality. And it's not just bad luck. It's almost always a failure in a process we're about to break down.
Okay, so let's get the official definition on the table. The International Organization for Standardization, that's ISO, gives us this pretty formal definition. But what does that actually mean? In simple terms, it just means the product does what the user needs it to do. So, if a requirement for a brand new phone is the battery must last 12 hours, quality means it consistently hits that 12-hour mark, maybe even goes beyond it. It's all about meeting the promise you made.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the why. Why this stuff matters so much. Then we'll get into the how by exploring the three main phases of the management framework. And we'll wrap things up by looking at the bigger picture, how to build a real culture of quality.
We might joke about glitchy software, but in the real world of project management, poor quality is no laughing matter. It can lead to tons of wasted money, really frustrated customers, and even totally failed projects. That's why getting a handle on this now is so critical as you step into your professional careers.
All right, so how do we actually get quality right? Well, it's definitely not about just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's about having a system, a formal structure that guides the project from the very beginning all the way to the end. Let's take a look at what that framework is.
At its heart, project quality management is about a really simple promise, making sure the final project actually delivers on its goals and satisfies the needs that sparked it in the first place. It's about making sure the whole reason you started the project is fulfilled by what you deliver.
Okay, I know this slide looks like a lot, but don't worry. Think of it as our map for the next few minutes. Everything really boils down to those three main columns you see. On the left, we have plan quality management. Think of this as the blueprint phase. In the middle is manage quality, which is kind of like overseeing the construction. And on the right, you've got control quality, which is the final inspection. All those little details underneath, the inputs, tools, outputs, those are just the specific steps for each phase. We're going to unpack these one by one, so for now, just focus on those three core ideas: plan, manage, and control.
First up, planning. And this is so crucial. Quality isn't something you check for at the end of a project, it's something you have to build in from the very beginning. This whole phase is about being proactive, thinking ahead, anticipating problems, and designing a process to prevent them from ever happening.
So what does that look like in the real world? Well, it means the team sits down and agrees on what good actually means. For a website, that might be a standard like all pages must load in under 2 seconds. It's about choosing the right coding language from the start, using reliable servers, and making sure every single developer is trained on the project standards before a single line of code is ever written.
Okay, let's move on to phase 2, managing quality. You've got your plan, and now it's time to put it into motion. This phase is all about executing those quality activities, but just as importantly, it's about always looking for ways to improve the process itself as you go. Now, this phase is where some really key industry concepts come into play. First, you have quality assurance, which is just a big term for all the planned stuff you do to make sure you're hitting your quality targets. Then you have these powerful ideas like Kaizen, a philosophy from Japan that's all about making small, continuous improvements every single day. So instead of one massive overhaul, you're just constantly getting a little bit better. We also use tools like benchmarking, where you might analyze a competitor's app to set a performance target, and quality audits, which are like formal check-ins to review your process and find lessons for the future.
And that brings us to our third phase, controlling quality. So if planning was the blueprint and managing was the build, then controlling is the inspection. This is where you measure your results, you monitor them against the standards you set, and you use a specific set of tools to find and fix any issues that pop up.
Think of this next part as us opening up a project manager's toolbox. There are several classic, proven tools that teams use all the time to analyze and solve quality problems. We're going to take a quick look at a few of the most important ones right now.
First up is the cause and effect diagram, which you'll also hear called a fishbone diagram, and you can see why. What's so cool about this is how it visually organizes all the possible things that could be going wrong. You put the problem, like users cannot get into system, at the head of the fish, and then you brainstorm all the possible causes, grouping them into categories like training, hardware, or software. It really helps you dig past the surface-level symptoms to find the true root cause.
Next in the toolbox is the Pareto chart. This one is all about prioritization. It's based on that famous 80-20 rule, which basically says that roughly 80% of your problems are probably coming from just 20% of the causes. This chart helps you find that vital few. You can see here, login problems are causing way more complaints than anything else. So where should the team focus their energy first? Yep, right there. It stops you from wasting time on the small stuff.
And this slide is a perfect example of the power of a simple flowchart. By mapping out a process, like the one for approving a project deliverable here, you can see every single step and every decision point. A team could look at this and immediately ask, is there a faster way to get to the decision makers? Or wait, what happens if the request is rejected? Is that loop efficient? It makes it so much easier to spot bottlenecks and find areas where you can improve.
Now, beyond these basic tools, there are more advanced methodologies, and Six Sigma is one of the most famous. It is a highly disciplined, super data-driven system for eliminating defects. It's all about using statistical analysis to really understand your processes and make them as close to perfect as humanly possible.
So what does close to perfect even mean in Six Sigma terms? It means this. The goal is to have no more than 3.4 defects per 1 million opportunities. I mean, to put that into perspective, a 99% quality level, which sounds amazing, right, would still allow for over 20,000 lost articles of mail every single hour. The Six Sigma standard is aiming for just 7. That is the insane level of precision we're talking about.
And to get there, Six Sigma projects follow a 5-phase process called DMAIC. That's DMAIC. You define the problem, you measure your current performance, you analyze the data to find the root causes, you improve the process with solutions, and finally you control the new process to make sure those improvements actually stick. It's this powerful, scientific loop for continuous improvement.
But here's the thing. You can have all the best tools, all the coolest charts, and all the perfect processes in the world. But true, lasting quality comes from something much deeper. It comes from the organization's culture, from its mindset.
One of the best ways to build this culture is by understanding what's called the cost of quality. Think of it like a scale. On one side, you have the money you invest to get things right in the first place. We call this the cost of prevention. On the other side is the cost of getting things wrong, when you have to fix bugs, deal with unhappy customers, all that bad stuff. And the key insight here is that an ounce of prevention is truly worth a pound of cure. The cost of failure is almost always way, way higher than the cost of prevention.
And that is why leadership is so fundamental. Research shows that a huge number of quality problems aren't actually technical, they're managerial. It's up to the leaders to create an environment where quality is valued, where employees feel empowered to do their best work, and where good enough is just never the standard.
So as you start your own career, here's a really powerful piece of advice. At the end of the day, quality is just about meeting expectations, but you can't possibly meet them if you don't truly understand what they are. So never, ever be afraid to ask questions. Clarify requirements. Make sure you are on the exact same page as everyone else. Clear communication is one of the most effective quality tools you will ever have.
We'll leave you with this final thought. As you go on to lead your own projects, you're going to face choices about time and budget and scope. And the way you view quality will shape every single one of those decisions. So ask yourself, is it just another expense on a spreadsheet to be minimized? Or is it the single most important investment you can make in the long-term success of your product, your team, and ultimately your career?